of our hearts together be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Oh, I love to give things away. I do not know why, but it's been a part of me since I was a child. Maybe it's this. When I was in the 3rd grade, there was a kid who sat behind me that smelled like dog food, but he was also always cold. So I know this kid was poor. I didn't know it then, but the kid was shivering in his desk right behind me, the same desk that he sat in and kicked the back side of my desk and bugged me to death. But this kid was cold, and I gave him my jacket. I thought it was mine to give because, people in the 3rd grade think so, no matter what their parents give to them, no matter what good gifts or bad gifts, kids in the 3rd grade think it's a gift. So I gave my coat to this kid, and I went home, and my mother said, "Where's the jacket that I made you with my loving hands?" I said, "I gave it to the kid behind me." And she said, "You have such a good heart." And thus began my career of giving things away. Now, my mom, she had to find another way to get me in a coat, and we didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a preacher, and people would give government cheese to my family to eat, or if they slaughtered an animal, which they did in the neighborhood and the farms I grew up around, and we put it in our freezer. But she had to find a way to get me another coat. I didn't understand the complications. That the way a community holds money and gives it away says something about that community. In late stage capitalism, which we call empire, which parallels in some way the time of Jesus and the Roman Empire in which his family and loved ones lived, one has money and gives away money for the purpose of power and profit. All kinds of laws and systems are set up so that if one gives money away out of one's great amassment, if I can use that word of wealth, it is given for the purpose of pity, perhaps, but mostly one is rewarded for giving money. One gets tax returns and so on and so forth. It tells you what kind of a culture that we live in. That the poor, who are made poor by such policies and laws by our government since the 18th century, are seen lazy, indulgent, and so on and so forth. But the rich who have too much money and might have a tax bill come due have to give away money so to reduce that tax bill, and our government passes laws and policies so to reward such a way of giving that is not sharing. The amassing, holding, and giving away of cash is an ancient problem and has continued since the beginning of time, through the time of Jesus, to the time of Maimonides, that is Moses ben Maimon, known as Maimonides or Rambam in the commentaries in the Mishnah. Jews who find themselves exiled, as he did, from community, needing to move from community to community, from country to country in order to be safe, set down rules based on Torah for the giving of cash to the poor, a religious and sacred obligation that is translated tzedakah. Tzedakah is still used. These rules of Maimonides in current Jewish communities, the community outside our door, use these rules by which they'll understand who and how to give cash to. One is always giving cash or resources away in order to support Jewish community because it is unsafe to live in the world as a Jew. And so the first obligation of Jewish giving is to give to Jews and then to the rest of the world by these rules that Sarah read to us, given to us by Maimonides. The Comanche, that nation of Indians in the plains in the Midwest and on down into the desert, have their own set of rules for the giving away. That is, one gives in this with the 4 R's laid out by LaDonna Harris with Jacqueline Wolecka. One gives for relationship, and this is a kinship obligation. One gives money and goods away to people inside of one's own kinship, so that the children can be raised well and easily, and so that the family can live and eat. But then also because in their cosmology, the Comanche, relationships extend to everyone. Everyone becomes a relative. And so one gives to everyone as one can for the sake of relationship. One also gives as a responsibility, the second R. It's a community obligation to keep the community up and running, to make sure that the community has enough to eat and clothes to wear, roof over one's head. One shares one's hunting, one's gifts, one's clothes as necessary. The third R is reciprocity. It's a cyclical obligation that is patterned by the seasons, winter, spring, summer, and fall. The leaves and the trees and the plants give, but then they need to be nurtured. And it's the same with individuals. We give out of reciprocity in times when times are lean or when times are full. We give so that everyone is involved in reciprocal obligation of giving. And the last R is redistribution, giving to those who don't have what they need, giving of one's great wealth. The Indian tribes in the western United States give potlatches. That is, when someone falls into a whole lot of money, one gives much of it away. Both, I think, it as adequately as a desire to show off one's wealth, but it is the means and the economic system by which all have what they need, redistribution. And we know that the tribes of Lakota and in the Dakotas have the giveaways, the great giveaways once a year, where everybody brings something, their best, their handmade to give away. What does this mean for us here? None of whom are Jewish except for a few of us, and none that are in the room are of Indian descent that I know of. What does this mean for us? We've declared for ourselves that we are a Christian community. And we follow the teachings of Jesus. And Jesus taught, in fact, in Luke, the great gospel of redistribution and care, that we must care for one another, body and soul. And that if we shall be free from empire, if we can make decisions outside of the rules that are handed down by laws and policy and by empire, then we must care for one another. In our congregation, we have several ways to give to one another. We have the pastor's fast track grant. That is, folks who are suddenly in need, we get to give money away. And there's a group of people who make sure I don't give too much of it away too soon or too often. We also have fast track grants for compassion and justice. So one of our members is going to ask for $200 for the adoption of a kitty for a woman who needs a kitty in her life. And all you have to do is ask, and a group of us will say, does it meet our criteria of compassion or justice. And if it does, we'll give that money away. We've had the COVID-19 relief fund for folks who need cash because they fell out of their means of employment. And we have given away so much money. And those of us who are on the team, it makes our hearts so glad to give this money away. You should be in on those team meetings. It's like, did they ask for that amount? Let's give some more than that. Shall we do that? Does that break the intent? Let's give more money away. And in our congregation, we give 10% of our money away to people who need it, who wants it. We give to a trans camp, kid for. Is the camp trans? No, it's a camp for trans kids to go every summer. So to take care of them, we give to our denominations who give money abroad. We also give money to those who work in our congregation, to Jillian, to Ade, to our band, to our staff, to Lionel Cermeño, who cleans up our mess after us, and to me. Beloved, you have proved to be a generous people. Did you know that we are this generous, my friends? We also have begun our work of reparations to give money to our people of African descent out of the slavery experience. We've been experimenting about what does this moral system of Hope Central Church stand for. You know that we're asking for your pledge, and we hope that we'll be able to raise enough money. But this is what I'm asking of me and of us. There was a widow who was in the temple, and she had 2 little coins to put in the offering box. And there were also rich people giving a lot of money in their offering box. But the question I want to ask is, when you're done giving, what is left over? And does the amount of money and resources that you have left over leave you and your community free from empire? Will you give to those whom you know will pass on your money so that you understand that empire does not rule you nor us? Will you give away your cash, your heart, your coat, your other coat in such a way as you can stand joyful before God, not giving away more than what you have, nor giving away what is somebody else's, but give away so that you and your family can stand in dignity, in new clothes when they need them, in food that is needed for the nurture and growth, so that you can pay for a roof over your head, but can you stand with dignity before your community and God, saying, I've given enough money away to be joyful today. Little amounts, big amounts. This is what I'm asking of us. Why don't you give and it will come back to you? A measure, running over again, and it will come back to you. And you give to the Lord. Why don't you give? Good measure,